we would pass through rooms filled with all manner of satanic and black magic paraphernalia, books on these practices, and all kinds of gruesome depictions of unsavoury scenes hung as pictures from the walls. If further verification of what was actually beneath the surface world of marketing ploy and the reptilian black magic force driving it were required, here it was, a demonstration of how the television industry, and indeed all technology, is black magic and the source of programming subliminals of control. We made our way onto the street, and it seemed we were in America. Quite the bustle of peoples provided a perfect opportunity to lose ourselves in the multitudes, for we knew the dark forces would be aware of what had transpired and be hot on our heels. My female associate even gave me a cap to wear to add to my concealment, and at one point we even secured ourselves a meal of fish and chips. We couldn't finish our meal because, much like the surface one-dimensional presented marketing ploy of the televisions and its seeming innocence, this food tasted revolting, and yet everyone around us were merrily consuming this food, and this repast was much to their delight and satisfaction, as though our awareness could discern that despite how the food may have tasted to the personal self, it was undoubtedly a toxic concoction of poisons and genetically modified contaminants. Again, the real side, demonstrating what was actually beneath the veil, behind the wizard's curtain, that everything is poisoned and polluted, despite how it is marketed, how it may appear, and what it tastes like. The dark forces were now closing in. They were all dressed in black suits, and seemed to have our scent. Interestingly, there were a number of movie actors pursuing us also. The crowds of peoples seemed oblivious to the famous faces in their midst. They were unable to see that these movie actors and personalities are as much a part of the controlled planet of human farming as any other system. Their inability to recognize this was demonstrated here, as they literally couldn't see these actors amongst the group of more obvious gangster black-suited types, as these actors walked amongst them in plain sight. One of the actors was Leonardo DiCaprio, and interestingly enough, there seemed to be two of him amongst our pursuers. Real side evidence of the cloning that is widely used by the dark forces for all the various reasons they would employ such technologies. Cloning is very prevalent and perhaps more widespread than people would realize. Many Nufriends on the real side have reported clones of every type and description, and even what seem to appear to be the guides used in attempts to fool and misdirect Nufriends. But as I said, they can clone what seem to be guides, but they can't imbue them with the isness, awareness, presence that a genuine guide possesses. Anyway, my female associate was getting a little panic-stricken, and to diminish her qualms, I elected to utilize another ability. I requested that she take my hand, and on doing so, I made it that we both became invisible. She was still uncertain, because we were not invisible to each other, and she could obviously not see how we were so from the eyes of the other individuals around us. But it became very apparent as we weaved through the crowds and evaded the dark-suited pursuers, and Leonardo DiCaprio clones with ears. An ears that would not have been possible were it not for our invisibility. I even amused myself by carrying around the bag of unfinished poisonous chips, and as you might imagine, it would look as though a bag of food was floating in the air to the incredulous onlookers. Another aspect of the process of awareness is becoming more adept at self-sufficiency and being completely independent of anything. A real survival, in other words. and the next part of the experience demonstrated just this. For as we were invisible, we were able to raid government facilities, the monetary control systems of banks, etc. For not only were we invisible, but we could now pass through solid objects, through the walls of buildings, or just press a hand through the wall, grab a handful of cash, and withdraw the hand with the takings. Maybe we were a bit overzealous, because our activities resulted in our discovery by the Dark Force agents, even though we are on our processes of awareness and do not agree with the systems of control on the physical level. We still must operate within their dictates. We must play along, as it were, and overstepping the mark can lead to effect consequences in accordance with the created laws and idea restrictions that are in place. If you speed down the road in a car, you will get that ticket. So we do have to play the game, as it were. We were now cornered in a cul-de-sac, with nowhere to retreat to, and our invisibility capability was no longer effective, because amongst the bewildered lesser cabal minions who could not see us was a more adept Dark Force agent, it would seem, a female with an air of authority, exuding confidence, and wearing a black tightly fitting outfit, and she was able to see us, despite us being invisible. She may well have been Joni, or another witch-like character, but I had the sense she was very formidable, as I brought my magical abilities to bear, for it was apparent we were to have a showdown, and I had the impression she was not an adversary to be taken lightly. The experience would end there, and I would not see the final battle, but perhaps I may see what transpired at a later time, as can often be the case. And so we can see that we are always on our adventures. On the real side, we are here, there, and everywhere in between, demonstrating the ease, effectively sharing the true reality. as we go about our activities, and in doing so, we are earning our way, agitating people, ruffling a few feathers, getting them to perhaps consider more than they have up until this point, and inevitably having a few reptilian dark force entanglements along the way. And we can expect the dark forces to always seek to intervene and intercede, as they very much detest what we are doing, for we are not only seeking to extract ourselves from their controlled matrix of creation, but provide the knowledge and opportunity by which others can do likewise.
Wow, Kevin, terrific. Another movie, another Indiana Jones space Flash Gordon movie. That's terrific. And so you just do everything, don't you? And we all do. Not everybody's conscious of that, but again, it's you have a real intent there to move forward with this, share it. It's just terrific. Yes, and there is always the opposition there, and the more that a person steps up and confronts things, the more opportunity actually there is to become more aware. And yes, there's always going to be the opposition there, but eventually you get through it all the way. So you're practicing. So it's so cool. And at the same time, many people are waking up because the world is very desperate. It really, really needs it really bad. Get out of that little self and see the bigger picture every moment, what's going on. Yes, thank you, Kevin.